Good morning. This is Andrea Latuski, Director of Education at the American Fraternal Alliance. Welcome to today's webinar, an introduction to the Fraternal Branding Program. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I just have a couple logistics before we get started. This webinar will be recorded. Early next week, you'll receive a link to the recording and a copy of the slides. We encourage you to share the recording and the materials with anyone else in your organization. All of the phone lines have been muted for our webinar this morning. If you have any questions, please use the chat feature on your computer screen throughout the event, and we'll have time at the end of the webinar for a Q&A with our presenters. Today, our speakers are all from the American Fraternal Alliance. We have Joe Anati, President and CEO, Jeff Mitchell, Director of Public Affairs, and Taylor Conrad, Membership and Marketing Coordinator. We are going to get started right away with some remarks from Alliance President and CEO Joe Anati. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. And good morning to all you on the phone. Thanks so much for joining us today. And more importantly, thank you for investing in the Alliance-sponsored branding initiative. I'm exceptionally thrilled today to be doing this webinar. When we contemplated this program initially, there were many doubters, including me, as to whether we could pull it off and whether members would support it. But we're here today because you did support it. And without that member support, we couldn't have conducted the consumer research, the creative design work that resulted in the branding materials we're going to be reviewing on today's webinar. More than 2/3 of the Alliance's membership, 42 societies, I think, in all, invested $9,500 apiece to get access to branding and marketing materials that will provide you the opportunity to grow your organizations. This is an incredible example of a cooperative program. Couldn't have been done individually, well beyond the means of most organizations on their own. And there's so much discussion within the fraternal community about shared services and cooperative projects. This is a perfect example of how they can work. The design work alone and the materials you're about to see is worth well more than the $9,500 investment your society made. And the research and testing that went into creating these materials and verifying their effectiveness. And that's what's really important here. These are consumer-tested messages and materials. The research and testing that went into this is well beyond the means of all but our largest members. The real test now, will be in how well you folks out there on the phone put all this information to work for your organization. Remember, you own these materials. What we're going to walk through and what's on that website, you paid for them and you own them. And those that use them effectively, in my opinion, can dramatically increase the return on their $9,500 investment. The purpose of today's webinar is to acquaint you with the materials and how to access them. Future webinars will provide much more detailed instructions on how to effectively use these materials in your ad campaigns and marketing efforts, on your website, and critically important, with your field representatives. If this only stays within your office, the huge value of it will have been in large part lost. This needs to get out to the field reps who are the face and voice of your society with current members and prospects. Finally, during the spring symposium this year, we'll have an in-person presentation from the folks at Matt at Douglas on this program as the final part of our educational program. This is an exceptionally exciting outcome for all of us here at the Alliance. And it is because it's a challenge that trade groups much larger than the Alliance wouldn't dare tackle. And we did, and we're proud and thrilled to bring you, to be able to deliver to you this information, this branding material, these consumer-tested messages and materials that can really help your society grow. With that, I'll turn it over to Jeff and Taylor to walk us through the website and the materials and the first step of our education program.
Good morning. This is Jeff Mitchell. I want to thank all of you again for your support of this program, and we're really excited to have finally launched it. As Joe said, today's program is going to be a very high-level look at the materials and assets that are available to you. Our hope is that moving forward, we can keep this from being some dusty association project that just sits on the shelf by really kind of embracing a user group mentality, moving forward and all learning from each other. And so we've set up some education and some face-to-face opportunities to ensure that this happens. On today's webinar, we're going to be looking at the content of the branding email that was sent to you and some important information there. We'll give you a walk through the complete website, go through how to download the assets from the Dropbox, and most importantly, we want to get your questions. We'll talk more about this later, but that's going to help us to plan future education and to make sure that you get the most out of this branding program. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Taylor, and we'll get started.
Good morning, everyone. This is Taylor Conrad. I'm actually going to start off, like Jeff said, running us through the email that some of you received. So this was sent out early in November, and it has 3 key pieces to it. So to start off, it has the link to the branding page that I'm going to run you through. This link is a unique link. It does not live on the Alliance website, and that is purely so that we can protect it from societies that didn't pay to participate in this program. So you're definitely going to want to bookmark this and keep it in a place where that everyone can have access to it. If for any reason you can't find it and you need to be on the page, you can, of course, always email Jeff or myself here at the Alliance, and we will send it right to you with no problem. Following that, we also had a link to a survey, and that was so that we could gather more contacts, people who need access to the Dropbox, as well as the social community that we created. Both of those pieces I'll talk about a little bit later in depth. And then lastly, a little run through of the branding education that we came up with. We wanted to give you an idea of all of the tools that we were going to have for you, not just hand you a website and send you on your way. We really want to make sure that you can make something of this, like Joe mentioned. So I'm going to switch over now to the website. So now we're at the branding homepage, and it starts off with just a brief welcome and a little bit about the project, and then runs into the Maddox Douglas presentation that they had at annual meeting this year. So that and its PowerPoint deck along with it are included. And in that presentation, they run over the timeline of the project prior to its launch, everything that they studied and researched, and then all of the main findings that they found and they discovered through all the research with the focus groups and the questionnaires. And then down here at the bottom is the brand library, and this is really where all of the information lives, and we've tried to make it as organized and easily accessible for you as possible. So this is really what I'm going to be going through today, piece by piece. So we're going to hop into this first page. This is the brand creative assets. And if you've gone through this website at all, this is where that ampersand ad really lives. So to start off, we have a creative brief that was made by Maddox Douglas to pair with those ads. It talks about what the ads communicate, who the audience is that we're trying to reach out to, as well as the importance of the message. You know, why is this important? What are these ads telling people? So if you were to scroll all the way down, we have all the different formats that the ad comes in. But what I really want to talk about is if you click on one of these, it opens up a PDF. and you get a really good look at the ad, and you see that there's an area for the logo, there's an area for your society name to go in, but you can't actually edit this ad from this page. This is just showing you what the ad looks like. So if we hop back to the main page, you'll see up here in bold, we mentioned that all of the creative pieces, the native files, are in that Dropbox that we've created. And if you don't have access to that now and you need access, again, you can email myself or Jeff and we'll get you access to that. Those files, unfortunately, cannot live on this website, just purely based on their size, but it's also another way to protect them and ensure that only participating societies have access to them. The last thing I want to mention on this page is actually the very first picture you see here is the brand guidelines. So if you go and you click into this, it'll tell you how to use them, what kind of language should you be using, what are the formats, what kind of imagery can you use. Breaks it all down for you and makes it very easy for you to go in and start using these pieces, which is really what we want you to do. We want you to go out and share this information. So I'm going to click back here to the main homepage again, and we're going to hop into the next section, which is the brand research report. This page has a lot of information. It is all of the research that Maddox Douglas collected throughout this entire project. So before I even click into it, you'll notice that the 3 presentations in there correlate with the next 3 upcoming webinars that I know Joe mentioned. And there's a lot of information within all of these, which is why we decided to make them into their own webinars. The really nice thing about how this page is set up is if you were to click into one of these, let's say the brand personality and language test, there's an executive summary that you can read through and kind of skim and get an idea of what's inside of the presentation. Because I think each one has 50 plus slides in it. So if you're looking for a specific piece of information, these executive summaries at least will give you a decent idea of whether or not what you're looking for can be found in that presentation. So this is another really great tool, very organized for you guys to find any sort of research or numbers that you may be looking for if you need it before we do the webinars for them. So now we're going to go and I'm going to talk a little bit about the brand user community. So if you were to click into the brand user community, it would immediately have you sign in, and then you would see our social community page. Right now I'm in the group, but you would be on your home page and you could come over to my groups over here and click in, and you would be able to find the Fraternal Brand User Group. And we created this as another tool for you guys to use. My hope is that you'll come here with questions and ideas and bounce ideas off of each other to get this going. So I put in some examples. I happened to ask, when is the next webinar? I just couldn't remember, and you can see ever so graciously, I also replied and let myself know that the next one's on January 10th. I also included the link because you can find the branding education schedule on the page as well. So maybe you don't want to send an email to us or you just have a quick question. This is a really great place to drop those in, get feedback from other societies. Jeff and myself will also be monitoring this page, so if anyone doesn't answer your question or doesn't know the answer, we can answer or find the answer for you. But the really great thing about this, and what I think will help this be even more successful, is bouncing ideas off of each other. So I made an example in here where I posted a picture of the Facebook ad that I had put up, and talked about how I boosted it and it reached a lot of people. And, and I asked, has anyone else used this on Facebook? What are you doing to get more views? I really think that we can make this program even more successful by working together to promote what the benefits of fraternals are. It's not just about the individual society. It's about coming together. That's why we were able to create this campaign and these ampersand ads that can really relate to all the societies. So if we come back to the homepage, the next section that we run into is brand education, which I mentioned before. So if we click into there, you'll see all of the webinars are listed, their dates and their times. And if you click on them, there's a drop down that comes down and gives you a little bit more information about what it's about. Also, following these webinars, once they're posted, I know Andrea mentioned an email going out. We will also post them here on the website in the branding education section if you ever need them or want to watch them or show them to anybody as well. I also want to point out at the bottom, there's in-person education opportunities. So I know Joe mentioned the half-day session at Symposium, which will be May 22nd at the Lowe's Chicago. So that will be something that we create based on what questions and comments that you guys have from these webinars that we're hosting. There will also be opportunities for regional lunch and learn throughout the year. So a lot of opportunities to talk and bounce ideas off of each other about what we can be doing. So I'm actually going to hand it off to Jeff now to talk a little bit about the frequently asked questions that we have for you.
Okay. As Taylor said, I think the best way that this is going to be successful is for us to all learn from each other moving forward. That said, what we're going to do beginning today on this webinar is to begin capturing every question that we receive and providing answers. And we're going to capture these, if you would email Taylor or myself or Joe or Allison a question, we're going to capture that so that this should be a complete guide to all the questions that we receive through the program. And as we get more and more, we'll figure out ways to categorize them and make it user-friendly. But we just think it will be the best thing if we can all learn together on this. We're at the starting point now, and we want it to be successful. So there are no bad questions. Ask questions. Ask any question. And we will do our best to answer it and turn it over to the group and see if they have more answers. So this is just a learning tool that we have instituted, and we hope will be popular and successful. And with that, I'll give it back over to Taylor, and she can show you how to get the assets out of the Dropbox.
Thanks, Jeff. So for those of you who've been added to the Dropbox, you would have received an email that looked like this. And if you clicked into it, you would be brought to a Dropbox that has these 3 files. We have print ads, social links, and web banners. It's all nicely organized and broken up. So if I were to go inside of print ads, you would see there's a ton of files within there. There are a lot of files. That's why that Creative Assets page is a really great tool, because it can give you an idea of what you're looking for before you go digging around in the Dropbox. You'll also see these first couple files are PDFs and JPEGs. So again, you're not going to be able to edit these. The ones at the bottom here, those are going to be your Photoshop and your InDesign files, where you'll be able to go in, place your logo, place your name, maybe change out the photos if you have some really great photos you want to add, and really customize it to your society. You will need Creative or Adobe Creative Suite in order to do this, because most of the files are Photoshop. There's a few InDesign and a few Illustrator. If this is something that you're not able to do, or you're confused about what product to get, we suggest talking to your local printer, anyone that maybe prints your business cards or any flyers for you, and they should be able to either insert it for you or get you started so that you can do it for yourself. So I'm going to hand it back over to Jeff to briefly talk about the education, and then we'll take some questions.
Okay. As you know, we have said throughout the webinar so far that we think education and getting you guys up to speed on the various aspects of the branding campaign and the information that's behind it and what consumers have said is going to help it to be more successful. So we have planned, it's going to be a busy January, folks. We have planned 3 webinars in January. The first one on January 10th will go over segmentation. That is the segments of consumers that are most receptive to the fraternal message and how to talk to them. We still actually are working with Maddox Douglas on some cool things in that, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more to share with you on January 10th. But this is a tremendously exciting portion of the branding program, the way to speak to those consumers who you're most likely to be effective with. The next one we're going to, which will be on January 17th, we're going to talk about consumer perceptions that we got through the focus groups. We conducted an online focus group and asked them about ways that they look at fraternals, if they had any knowledge of it at all, or insurance, giving back to the community, what community means to them. All of these things will help you as we go through them. Change language on your website. Put it in ways that are likely to click with consumers. And this is the beauty of this program, is it's all consumer tested. Finally, the last one on January 24th, we'll be going over brand personality and language. That is, what words to use, how to present it, how to make it click. And again, this is what consumers have told us. Down the road, we're going to be doing an agent training webinar. That we want to get some feedback from you. Everyone has a little different relationship with their agents, and so we want to know, and I'll be talking with many of you, how to make that effective for your society. And we'll figure something out. We'll also be doing a face-to-face at this year's NAFIC meeting, so that any of your agents that would go there will hear from us again. And as we have mentioned, there will be a half-day in-person workshop at Symposium, and Maddox Douglas will be there. And we're going to try and make that as interactive as possible so that we can all learn from each other. With that, let's take some questions. I'll kick it back over to Andrea to moderate this section.
Thank you. And so we have ample time for questions from our audience here. So if you would go ahead and chat in any questions that you have on your computer screen, and we can ask those of our presenters. Just go ahead and chat those in. And so we have a question that's come in that's what programs do we need to edit the files? So I'm going to turn that over to Taylor because I think she has an answer for that.
So as I mentioned before, you do need Adobe Creative Suite. So that's a package that will include numerous Adobe products, but will definitely include Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign, which are some of the main ones that you will need specifically to edit these files. And like I said before, if you're unsure of which specific program or you're confused about which one to purchase, contacting your local printer would definitely be the best way to edit or to figure out how to get that all set up. And like I said, they also will be able to possibly even edit the files for you and get it set up.
Great, thank you. Another question that has come in is, once we customize one of the pieces, does the AFA have to approve the final version of it before it's used?
I'll respond to that. No, we do not. We have done a broad 50-state review for compliance, we have no need to review your advertising, so there's no additional step in there. Please take it and use it as you will.
Great, thank you. Another question that has come in. If you are unable to make any of the additional training sessions in January, will they be recorded or otherwise made available? I can answer that for you. We are definitely planning to record all of the webinars. And if you registered for this webinar, we'll make sure that you receive the link to all of the recordings for all of the webinars. Plus, they will all be posted on our website in with the brand education piece. Let's see. So we've got a lot of questions coming in. So another question is, has the compliance review process been completed yet?
Yes, it has. We have that, and they all passed with flying colors. We're happy to say there were some minor adjustments, but they were just suggestions. They were not do or dies, and that is complete now.
Great. Let's see. Another question that has come in is, let's see, we don't run traditional ads. How else can I use this information?
I would say on that, if you have a Facebook page, if you have a Twitter account, or on your web page, there would be great opportunities to incorporate all these materials in any of those places, and there's assets that are set up specifically for those mediums. You can also, if you dig into the language and the way that consumers perceive things, get an idea for everything from how to set the tone for an email, that sort of thing, kind of things that maybe your agent should be saying. So that's where I would start if you don't do traditional advertising. We all have websites. We all have, most of us have Facebook pages. So those are the areas where I would suggest you start.
And sort of a follow-up question is the Alliance planning on running any kind of social media campaign?
Actually, the Alliance is not planning on doing that because the cost was prohibitive. Initially, we went to the board and we looked at some of that, and the cost just proved to be too heavy. So basically, we're hoping that the participating members can help us with that and can push it out that way through their own ad budgets, and that's what we discussed through the process. We're certainly going to be posting this stuff on our website occasionally and on our social media, so we get it out there. But no, there's no paid campaign planned.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, how much should I plan on spending to get real value for these ads?
That's a great question, and I think that that's just kind of a typical marketing type question. You should talk with your marketing folks and see what you've spent in the past, what you feel like you can spend. It really, there's as many different answers for that as there are societies. So also I would use the user group, use the online community, things like that, to see what other folks are doing. But it really depends on your society and what your plans are, and your product mix. There's a lot of variables in that question.
So another question that's come in is, I think that these ads are going to be effective online, but am interested in what the landing page wording would look like. I assume that's covered in an upcoming webinar.
Yeah, we'll be going over that in an upcoming webinar.
Do or can these files come in anything besides Adobe? I guess my concern is that we paid for the branding campaign, and if they don't have Adobe, we're going to have to turn around and pay for someone to design or put together the ad for them. I think that there are other programs out there. There are some cost solutions that are similar to Adobe that that have some of the same features, particularly if you're not looking to do too much additional design to them. There are things that are cloud-based online programs. One of it was PicMonkey. I don't know if that one is still, but that's something that we could definitely add to the FAQ and see if we can pull together some other programs that you might be able to do some of the more simple solutions with. So another question that has come in is, can an Alliance rep deliver a presentation on this program to my field reps, to my convention, or to my board?
Absolutely. Get in contact with Jeff or Joe or Allison, and we'll see what we can work out.
Great. So we do have a few more minutes here. If there are any other questions, you can go ahead and chat those in. Definitely, if you think of any questions later, you can see Jeff's email address is up on the screen there. You can feel free to email him, and he'll help field those questions for you. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in. I just wanted to provide an opportunity if Jeff or Joe, you'd like to provide any additional closing remarks.
This is Joe. Thank you all for participating. Some great questions, technical questions and conceptual questions. We hope we answer them to your satisfaction. And if you have additional questions that come up, that you think of as soon as you hang up the phone, just email them to us, and we'll get answers to you. I kind of sense that given the number of questions and the flurry in which they came in, there's a lot of interest and excitement out there. I hope that's the case. I think this is something that is a really dynamic opportunity for societies that can take advantage of it. We want to help you get there. Just to backtrack on one question a bit, as far as the Alliance promoting this, this is not our brand. This is not the American Fraternal Alliance's brand. This is branding material that can be used by individual societies. And we hope that you will take advantage of that. We don't want to invest the time or energy or effort trying to promote a brand that makes people more aware of the Alliance. We want you to promote a brand that makes people more aware of your society and the unique characteristics and features that are most appealing to consumers about the fraternal model. So we greatly appreciate your being here. We hope you will tune in for the future webinars and presentations we have scheduled on this. And if you have individual questions or things that didn't get responded to your satisfaction from this webinar, just email or call us, and we'll do our very best to get you those answers.
Great, thank you. And thank you all for joining us today. We're going to launch a very brief survey just to get your feedback on our webinar this morning. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.